Before we get into today's video, I did want to let you guys know that this video is for educational purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance in hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope you've all had a wonderful week. I just know all of y'all are drinking your water. I know y'all are out walking, getting sunshine, getting fresh air, unless it's been raining like it has been here all week long, like crazy, but I just know y'all are, right? If you guys don't already know me, hi, my name is Christina. I do have a second channel, which is Christina Randall, which is Casually Christina. Over there, we do things more casually, like you can see me brushing out my locks that I had for 5.5 years. I also have a Patreon. My Patreon is for 18 and up. Over there, we talk about more personal stuff. We go live. It's a good time if you're 18 and up and you'd like to join. And I also have an Instagram, and all of those are always down in the description box if you'd like to come and check me out. So in today's video, I am quite anxious to do this video because there's just going to be so much information, hearty, meaty, relevant information for you all. So make sure you stay until the end, please. However, today's video is going to be part 2. So if you have not seen part 1, which is the disappearance of Summer Wells, please go and watch that so you're not lost and you know exactly what's going on. If you know all about the Summer Wells case and you didn't see the first video and you just want to jump in here, then that makes sense too. Okay. So in the previous video, I told y'all that in the next videos, I wanted to do a deep dive into who the parents are. Now, the parents are Dawn Wells and Candus Wells, okay? I wanted to do a deep dive on it, but you guys, there is so much information and so much relevant information to the disappearance of this baby girl, in my opinion, that I'm gonna have to do 2 videos. I'm gonna have to do a full one on Dawn, which we're gonna be doing today. And trust me, if you guys watch this video and stay until the end, you're gonna know why I did this whole video on just him, because it is a lot. And then I will do a video talking about Candus, and then we're gonna bring it all around. We're gonna talk about inconsistencies, and hopefully, at some point, we're going to find where this baby girl is, and hopefully she is alive and healthy and safe and all of the wonderful things that we can just hope and dream about Summer Wells. But real quick, before we get into it, I do want to say that everything in this video is alleged. I was not there. I can't say for sure. Make sure you do your own research, form your own opinions. Check the links down in the description box. Plenty of sources for you guys. But other than that, speaking of Dawn Wells, let's just start at the beginning. Dawn Wells, who also goes by Donnie when his family is speaking of him, seems to have grown up mostly with his father. Now, it is said that his biological mom had a substance problem. Donnie was a child. She allegedly had a substance problem, and she married this guy named Kelly. There seems to be some really bad stuff that happened between Dawn and this stepfather, Kelly, but we're going to get more to that in the end. But nevertheless, Dawn was raised mostly by his biological father, whose name is also Dawn. So you guys got Candus the grandma, Candus the mom, and Candus the oldest daughter, but we'll get to that in the next video. And you're going to have in this video, Dawn Sr., the grandpa, Dawn Wells, the father of Summer Wells, and then you're going to have a little Donnie too, because they all name their kids after each other. It's a tradition in these families. Dawn, or Donnie, was raised mostly by his father. Dawn had 2 siblings, and it is said that when he was younger, Don Sr. was looking for a babysitter for his 3 children. When he's looking for a babysitter for his 3 children, he found this woman who had 6 children.
Actually met Don when I was probably about 4 years old, probably. And is how this came about was my mom answered a babysitting ad for Donnie's parents. And so she started babysitting Donnie and his 2 sisters when they were, probably 3 and 4 years old, 2, 3, and 4.
Now she started babysitting and coming over and helping out with the kids and all that. And before you know it, Don Sr. and this woman started dating. Now they were both married at the time. However, they were both separated from their spouses. And so they just started dating. And then they decided that they were going to move in together and blend the families. They would later, years down the road, get married, and from what I can understand, they are still married to this day. But this is how Don would meet his stepsisters. The families mesh together and they blend and they move in together. Jeannie, Don's stepsister, would come out and say that she still remembers when they moved in together because previously her and her family was like living in this trailer and they were going to get to move into a house.
We lived in this little trailer in the beginning. I don't remember how many of us were in there. And then they bought a house in Roy. And that's kind of where everything started for me. We hadn't fully moved in yet. There was no beds or anything, but you know, some of the kids wanted to go stay at the new house, and I begged and begged because I wanted to go and stay at the new house.
We're going to all go check out the new house that they were all going to move into, both families. And she really wanted to spend the night because it was a house. Like, it's different than, you know, where they had been living in this trailer and they were going to all be a family. Around this time, Jeannie was just 5 years old. And she said that the very first night that they stayed together, and this is where I'm going to let you guys know that the rest of this video is going to be a huge trigger warning. There's going to be SA talked about. And so I just wanted to let you guys know now that that's the path we're heading down. Jeannie said when she was 5 years old, and Don at this time was around 11 or 12. So he was much older and mature than 5-year-old Jeannie. She said the very first night that they stayed the night, Don got her alone and talked her into playing this game.
This kind of started where Donnie would try to play these little games with me. He had the one game where he had this idea, it was kind of like a dare game, I guess, where he would put his hand up my pant leg and, you know, he would go so far and I would dare him to say stop before he got to my privates, you know, and every time I never liked it. I never liked doing it. I never, you know, did it with him. You know, and he would get halfway up my leg and I'd just tell him, stop, you know, and he'd say, no, you can't do that. You know, we got to go further. And, you know, and so I'd be like, fine. And then, so that's where that went. It was just first started out as that kind of game.
Don got into a lot of trouble as a kid.
5 years old, I believe. Him and his sister was out in the barn playing with matches, and he burnt my dad's barn down.
Oh, wow.
Horses died, cattle died, chickens died, goats died in that fire. It was a big fire.
So anyways, he started at 5 years old getting into trouble. By the time he was 15 years old, he was stealing and getting into a lot more trouble. Jeannie, Don's stepsister, said that by the time she was 6 or 7, this is when Don would actually start coming into her room at nighttime. She said, she was a little girl, and I just cannot imagine, like, looking back. I can't imagine. I absolutely can't imagine, but I feel for her because 5-year-old, any of y'all that have children, or if you've been there, you know what I mean, 6 and 7, and you have your older brother or stepbrother now that's 12, 13, 14. I mean, that seems so much older and mature to a little 5, 6, 7-year-old that probably is looking up to their big brother in some way. Nevertheless, she said this is when he started to sneak into her room at nighttime and do things that she wouldn't even repeat. And I don't blame her. When I heard her speak of this, she cried. She did say that Dawn would tell her she could not tell anybody.
Start to ask him, I'm like, why do we got to play this game? Like, I don't like it. And, you know, so I think he got to the point where I was getting concerned about it. So that's when he started telling me, you can't tell anybody. And I asked him, well, why not? And he says, well, if you tell, then I'll die. And, you know, and then it progressed to not only would he die, but everybody in the family would die. And so, you know, I didn't want him to die. I didn't want anybody to die.
Mary, another one of Dawn's stepsisters, told a story in an interview of a time when her parents, and she refers to Dawn's father as my dad. She never says my stepdad. She obviously, Jeannie does too. They always say my dad, talking about Dawn Sr. So they obviously love Dawn Sr. and really look at him as like their dad, the guy that raised them. So Mary, the other stepsister of Dawn, which is Jeannie's biological sister, said that
I was about 13 years old, and he had a couple of his friends over. My mom and dad weren't home. They were out on the track on a run, and so we were home alone for a couple of days, you know, all us kids. And they were getting drunk and getting high, and they started chasing me around their house. And they started ripping my clothes off. And I was scared for my life. And it got to the point where they were holding me down and ripping my clothes off. And I finally got up and ended up running into my mom and dad's room and locking the door. Well, I stayed in there for like 2 hours before my brother got home. And my brother and my boyfriend, they were like best friends, and they had came in, and I told them what had happened. And they immediately took me to the police station. I did a report on it because I was going to press charges on all three of them, you know, for doing what they did to me. And later on that night, my mom and dad had got home, and my dad pretty much made me go to the police station the next day. And I had to tell him that it was, you know, like all a mistake or whatever, because my dad didn't want me sending his son to prison. So.
And that's such a bad feeling, you know, when it's within the family. It's a bad feeling regardless, but when it's within the family, and I'm just going to speak from a woman's perspective because I'm a woman and I don't know what it's like to be a man in this perspective, but from a woman's perspective, and you're a victim and you're afraid that if you speak up that it's going to be your fault that you just destroyed the family, or that you created waves in the family, even though it's not your fault. It's actually the perpetrator's fault. Nevertheless, she dropped the charges and they continued to go on about their lives. Jeannie said as she was, 6, 7 years old, that Dawn would get more and more aggressive with her. She got very emotional talking about this, but did not give details. You can probably guess, but she would get very aggressive with her. She said that she recalls being a little girl and putting on 2 and 3 pair of pants at nighttime to hopefully stop stuff. She would sleep in 3 sets of clothes. She said she particularly remembers setting up booby traps in her room. That a way they would hopefully stop him from coming in the middle of the night. She said she remembered like setting up a string that would hopefully be like a tripwire, and that it never worked. He always still continued to come in. Jeannie said that one night their dad, Dawn's biological dad, and her stepdad woke up in the middle of the night when Dawn was in her room in her bed. She said he came into the room and Dawn jumped up real quick.
And Donnie just stood up really fast, and my dad said, "What are you doing?" And he just, oh, you know, I was sleepwalking, you know, and I'm sitting there thinking I was just so happy because I thought he's going to get caught, you know, this is going to stop.
Yeah.
And my dad just told him to go back to bed, and that was it.
Jeannie, Dawn's sister, said this is why when she heard that Dawn, her stepbrother, had a 5-year-old daughter that was missing, she had to say something. She said she tried to forget this, like most people do that are in these situations, that she tried to forget it and move on with her life. But when she saw that Dawn's 5-year-old little girl was missing, she had to speak up. And she didn't just come to social media. She went straight to TBI. She went to the police station. She told them everything that she knew. And this interview came later. Jeannie said when she was around 10 or 11 years old, this is when Dawn went to prison for the first time. She said this was a great break for her life. He was gone to prison for like 2 years, and that she felt like she was having a normal life at this point. She wasn't being touched or messed with or anything like that. But whenever Dawn got ready to get out of prison, the whole family was excited, like most people do. You know, when you have a family member coming home from prison, and Dawn was, you know, talking about how changed he was, and the whole family was saying how he was changed and he was going to come home and be a different person. And when he came home the first day, he came back to the house, the whole family, now this is 2 years later, you guys, the whole family is excited and they're talking to him about his life plans. And, you know, he's just saying how he's going to do the right thing and stay on the right path. And Jeannie, being not even quite a teenager at this point, you know, she was looking at her brother and just, you know, happy for him and was thinking how he was changed and, you know, just excited for him to be home and be a different person. However, she said that night when she went to sleep, it happened again. So he went to prison for 2 years, gets out, comes home, the whole family's boosting up him like he's a changed person, he's going to be a different person. And the very first night that he gets out, he messes with his little sister, a little baby girl, you know, like, this is why this pattern is important, in my opinion. Jeannie said after this, she was so emotional and so frustrated, she burst into her parents' room. She said because she had 2 years without this at this point, and she didn't want it again. She burst into her parents' room, flipped on the light, started crying and screaming, told them everything, said, you know, she didn't want him around her, didn't want him to touch her, and her mom was super duper upset. She said that her dad, which is Dawn's biological dad, but that's her dad, went looking for him and he had ran out the house. He was hiding somewhere. She said her biological mom wanted to press charges on Dawn right then and there, but that her father, which was her mom's husband and which was Dawn's biological father, said that if she pressed charges on Dawn, that he would divorce her. She said that her mom told her how sorry she was, but that she couldn't do it. She couldn't get divorced. And I feel bad for her mom in that situation a little bit, just because you've been with this man for 10 years or 5 years, 7 years, however long it is. Your whole family is there. Your kids are there. And you feel like you don't know what to do. Although I would have got a divorce and went and lived in a homeless shelter, but that's just me. Not everybody's like me. That's what I would have done. I'd have been on the streets with my children and they would have been safe. Okay, keep going. So nothing happened again there. Now we'll fast forward a bit. Dawn, allegedly at this point in his life, he's getting on a lot of substances. He's an adult. He's getting really big into drugs and drinking. And he meets a woman in a meth house named Pamela. So he meets her. He starts dating her. He eventually has 2 children with her, gets married to her. So he marries her. Now it's Pamela and Dawn. And they have 2 children, which is Dawn Jr. and Margie.
But he was into a lot of drugs at that time, so.
And this is the point where if Dawn was going to change in his life, he had every reason to. He had a million reasons to before. Okay, when he went to prison, he could have changed. When he got caught multiple times he could have changed. Now that he's married and has children, he could change, but things don't seem to have gone that way. His sisters would speak out and say that the children that he had with Pamela, which was little Donnie and Margie, were so neglected, it was bad.
When they were growing up, the house was their homes that they lived in, which was many. They were always really messy. The kids, I always tried, when the kids were babies and stuff, I always tried going over there. And every time I would pass their house or anything, just going to the store or doing whatever, I would stop in to check on them. I would pretty much just stop in so I could bathe them and dress them in clean clothes and change their diapers and feed them. And because I really don't think that Donnie's ex-wife really knew how to take care of children. She said that she had had kids before that, like 5 or 6 children before that, but they all got taken from her.
Oh.
So and then when she had the 2 kids with Donnie, she wasn't a very good housekeeper. I don't think she really even knew how to keep house, or she didn't know how to cook. She didn't know how to take care of the babies after they were born. I would go over there and little Donnie would be laying in the crib with his bottle propped up at 2 weeks old. And it's like, no, dude, you can't do that. You have to hold them, when you feed them and stuff. And she wouldn't really listen, She just went on and done her own thing.
So did those kids, the 2 older children of Dawn's, was there a lot of like CPS? I don't know if it's called CPS where you are, but like, family protective services, child protective services. Was there anything like that?
Oh yeah, we always tried calling CPS and stuff because everybody in the family, we always felt so sorry for the kids, But CPS, it's just like they would never do anything. I don't understand. But there was one time that they did make Donnie's ex-wife take like a parenting class or something. They were trying to teach her how to cook and keep house and parent and stuff, because they did come to a point to where they were going to take them once, but she had to agree to take these parenting classes.
What about Donnie? He didn't have to take the parenting classes?
I don't think so. I don't think they made him take them. I just know that his ex-wife ended up having to, and I think she only took a couple of classes, and then, if they ever came to try and take the kids or check up on them, they would just leave and move somewhere else, and then we wouldn't know where they would go, or we wouldn't hear from them for like a couple of months or something. And then all of a sudden they would start coming around again, and it's like, well, where you guys been? Where do you live? So.
And how are the kids?
The kids were just, like I said, everybody in the family felt really bad. And we wanted to do everything we could, to help them. And even me and my ex-husband even tried adopting Donnie's little girl. Her name is Margie. And we tried adopting her when she was about 3 years old. And what it was they needed money really bad, and we didn't agree with the way they were raising their kids. And I talked to my husband and I said, well, let's try and offer them some money and adopt Margie, And they were going to do it and everything. Donnie was all for it. But they had come over one night to sign the papers, and Donnie's ex-wife wanted to keep coming over and seeing Margie, and she wanted to take her and stuff. I told her, I said, no. I said, if we adopt her, she is going to be ours. You have no contact with her at all. And she didn't want to do that, so it pretty much fell through.
Did you witness any any abuse, like any like heavy hand abuse or any form of abuse in the home when you were a child or as an adult with his children?
No, nothing. Not really like him hitting them or anything. I never seen any of that, but just the you know, the kids were dirty. You know, they didn't have, you know, always had dirty clothes on, always a dirty diaper. You know, I don't know so much as to where maggots were in the diapers. I never really seen that.
Okay.
But they were, you know, they were dirty. The kids were dirty, and they were living in, you know, just yucky conditions.
Things get real crazy when it is said that Pamela caught Don trying to sell his son, little Donnie, for substances.
We talked about this a little bit last time too. Did Don try to sell his oldest son with his first wife?
Yes. A lot of people are saying it was both his kids, but it was just little Donnie when he was just a couple years old. His ex-wife had came to my mom's and with the kids, and it was late at night. It was like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And, you know, we were all getting ready to go to bed, and she came in and she was crying, and she said that she had just caught Donnie down on, well, it's famous 25th Street down here in Ogden, you know. And she said he was out there trying to sell little Donnie because he needed drugs. They were broke, you know.
So
Donnie
was he going to
always
trade?
trying.
Was he going to trade little Donnie for drugs, or was he was literally just selling him
No,
on a corner? I guess that's.
You know, I'm not quite sure, but he was doing it because he was trying to get drugs. You know, I think he was just stopping people saying, "Hey, you want to buy my kid? You know, $20, $50, whatever." You know, he
That's it.
didn't care because he was on drugs. You know, he didn't care. You know, and Donnie, when he got on drugs, he was just really weird. He was out of it. Nothing really ever came of it, you know, except for maybe my mom and dad sitting down with Donnie, you know, and telling him, you know, what the hell are you doing? You know, what are you doing trying to sell your kids? You know, but it's like I said, he was on so many drugs, and he just, you know, he needed to get his fix. You know what I mean? He went around to everybody in the family. He stole our lawnmowers, he stole our tools, he stole a lot of stuff from my mom and dad, you know, because it was accessible. You know, he was
To sell for
there.
drugs?
He knew where everything was. He stole their wedding rings. He stole a lot of my dad's tools, lawnmowers. I mean, anything he could get his hands on, VCRs, televisions. I mean, anything he could get his hands on. And it was a bad situation, and he didn't
When you have an
care.
addict in your family, it gets pretty ugly.
Allegedly, this happened where he actually tried to sell his child for substances. I wasn't there. That's what the family's saying.
What was your first initial reaction that when Summer was missing?
My very first initial reaction, to be truthful with you, I thought Donnie had something to do with it. That was my very first reaction, was he done something with her. I know it. But then I started looking at his interviews, you know, that first one, I could tell he had been crying and stuff, but, you know, so it kind of made me think, well, maybe he didn't have something to do with it, you know, but, and now I just like, God, I don't know, you know, it's like, because him and Candus's, their stories just don't mix, you know, and then also I had seen that photo going around with Summer by the mill. And in the background, people are saying that, oh, well, Donnie's car was there, or Candus's red car was there. And Donnie's going, oh, no, that was a red tow. But I blew the picture up and I took a magnifying glass, and you can see clearly it is Candus's car.
In that
it's
picture?
it's beyond the tailgate. You can clearly tell it's her car.
I'll have to take a closer look at that picture.
Candace
did tell us that was a tote in the back of her car.
No, dude, it's her car. You can even, if you blow it up and you get a magnifying glass, you can clearly see the decals on the back of her car and the windows, the way it's shaped. That is her car.
Let's keep going. Little Donnie, so you've got Donnie Sr., you've got Don Wells, the guy that we're talking about here, the main character, which is Summer Wells' father, and then his son, Little Donnie. Little Donnie was arrested at 19 years old for...
You still have a relationship with Little Donnie, who's not so little anymore. He's a grown man.
Right.
And, a lot came up about his charges from his girlfriend being, he was approximately 19, she was approximately 14.
My mom said, they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they had been dating for like a year. And then she ended up getting pregnant, and her mom got really upset, about it. And I guess her mom never did like Little Donnie either, even when they first started dating. She never liked him, but I guess she just kind of put up with the, I guess for the sake of her daughter, because I guess she was in love with him. And then, she ended up pressing charges because she ended up getting pregnant.
The story, the way that they tell it, is Little Donnie was dating this girl. He was 19, she was 14. Allegedly, according to these stories I'm hearing online, the parents were okay with it until she turned up pregnant at 14. Yeah, can you imagine? We're not going to go into what I would do with any of this, but nevertheless, so then he was arrested and he went to prison for that. And then when he got out, he had to pay child support for his baby. So there's like this pattern here, you guys. There is a pattern here with this essay. Now, remember in the beginning when I told you that the biological mother of Donnie married a man named Kelly? Well, it is said, it came out in one of these videos.
Kelly was a stepfather of another marriage, correct?
He was married to Donnie's biological mom.
Interesting, huh? So I wonder where Donnie learned it.
Yeah.
If anybody's wondering, I just gave you the answer.
Now, I bring all this up, and I think it's important because we see who Donnie was allegedly as a child. We see who he was as a young adult, and then we see who he was as a father, okay? Now, this is before he met Candus and had 4 children with her, okay? Now, when Donnie was asked about these things here on social media, if you guys watched my first video, you saw that I said that I've never seen anybody in one of these cases speak so much like he's been doing. He's really been speaking, like these people have been speaking out. It's been a lot to try to take in. When he was asked about the situation that happened between him and his little sister, Jeannie, he said that it was consensual. Okay? A 12-year-old and a 5-year-old, that's not consensual. But that's what he allegedly thinks. So that ought to tell you that right there.
My stepsister is Jeannie. And we did have a relationship when we were younger.
And what was?
And she's just as guilty as I am. So she's trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, like she's a Miss Innocent and all this and that. Well, she's not.
To walk me through that. Help me understand.
I would rather not, but so we kind of had a relationship when we were younger. Yeah, I was a bit older. I had a dirt bike, I don't know how old I was exactly, but she started dating her cousin, which was about 12 years old at that time. And ever since then, she just wanted me out of the picture. Ever since then. And it started all this hateful stuff ever since then.
And how old were you?
I don't know. Maybe 15. I don't know.
And how old was she?
I don't know. She was a lot younger than me. And I thought this, and I remember thinking this, I didn't think it was right. I was too young to understand how girls are too.
Walk me
You know,
through that. When you say you didn't think it was right, what were you guys?
Well, because she was younger. Because she was younger. No, she would play with my thing, and I would play with hers. And that's about it. I mean,
okay. And how long did that go on?
I don't know. For a little while or whatever, but like when everything changed.
He did apologize to his sister, though, via YouTube, but he said, "If I ever hurt Jeannie, I'm sorry." Why does all of this past matter, in my opinion, to what's going on now with his 5-year-old daughter missing? Well,
because when we heard that Summer went missing, all this came back, about her abuse and everything, because here she is thinking, oh my gosh, he's got this 5-year-old little girl, and what if he's doing the same things to her as he was doing to her? You know what I mean? And so, she just came out with this.
if you know the story, then you know that Dawn said that the day that she went missing, he woke up at 6:30 a.m. and he saw his little daughter sleeping in the bed next to him. That right there, already, I don't like it. Knowing everything that I know, 5-year-old daughter, not saying anything happened, you don't know, but there's a track record, and it's a disturbing track record, and in my opinion, is something that should be investigated. Nothing to see, then there's nothing to see, but it still should be investigated. So she was sleeping in the bed. Well, when he was speaking out to the media, his story was that he thought,
I'd do anything to have her back. If there's any way, if you can find it in your heart to please release her somehow. I don't know how you might do that. I mean, 'cause you're probably scared of going to prison for the rest of your life and everything else, I'm sure. But please find it in your heart, have mercy, and find a way of letting her go and where we can get her back.
So what do you think should happen? What do you think should happen?
I have to leave it to God, and I know what prison's like, and I have mercy for anybody who's in prison, because you're lucky if you get out of there alive.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So would you want to see this person in prison?
I don't know if I could do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No,
it just depends on all the circumstances,
So would you want to see this person in prison?
I don't know if I could do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No,
it just depends on all the circumstances,
What if it was an accident?
Well, that's different, and accidents happen,
Right.
I even asked them if I could pose as a sicko for them and see what we could come up with. And they're like, oh, no. But,
so you were going to pose as a molester?
If they would let me, if it helped catch some of these people or whatever.
and I think I should have told you guys that nobody is cleared in this case. The investigators that are working on this, everybody is still a suspect.
Everybody's a suspect now. Everything's on the table, and our main focus is to find someone and bring her home. And whichever way it goes with a suspect, or if she's lost in the woods, or whatever, been abducted, whatever, everything's on the table.
I did want to say before I wrap this video up that Don Wells could be completely innocent and just a grieving father in this situation, but I did not feel right putting out a Summer Wells video without putting out the full spectrum of the case, because it seems like everything is important in this situation. I also want to say that I would not be bringing any of this stuff up or making this video if Don Wells himself hasn't spoken out about all of these things to social media, to Facebook, to YouTube, to the news. And again, although he may be completely innocent and may be a grieving father who unfortunately his daughter is missing, I feel like all of these details are important. Now, in this video was just to tell y'all his past. Next video, we're going to be talking about Candus's past, the mothers. So you got the mother and the father, and then we're going to go into inconsistencies of this story. So make sure you guys subscribed if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching this video. You guys go and check out the interview room. Watch some of those interviews. They are deep. Thanks again for watching this video, you guys. I love y'all. Please don't forget to like it. It's a free way that you can help your girl out. And until next time, bye.
We are dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust.